Hello, this is Paul Hutton, president of Hutton Wealth Management.
And I'm Ron Hunn with Ron Hunn Insurance Group.
Thanks for watching. Would you please drop us a line in the comments section below? You can subscribe to the YouTube channel and like us on Facebook so that you don't miss any important and timely information. Today's presentation is going to be discussing long-term care and the risk you could face in protecting those assets. If you've explored why you need long-term care, you've likely come across a lot of these statistics. Specifically, that 70% of people 65 and older need long-term care at some point in their life. Ron and I have worked in long-term care for a lot of years and see these statistics constantly. If you ask me if I think we're going to need long-term care, I'd probably tell you no. It's scary to talk about, and even scarier to think about a time where you might need that help. What concerns me are the top two statistics right on the upper right-hand corner, whether I think I'm going to need it or not. I do understand the need to be prepared. People overwhelmingly want to avoid this subject, and specifically, they want to avoid talking about it with the very people who will be most affected by them needing the care. This is concerning to me because although I won't admit that I likely need the care in the future, I'm very concerned about having a plan in place because of how it will affect everyone else in my life. $243,000 is the estimated annual cost of semi-private nursing home in 30 years. $341,000 is the estimated lifetime cost of care for someone with dementia.
You know, those numbers are staggering. Many people believe that Medicare will pay for most of the long-term care needs, but that is simply not the case. Medicare pays for 20 days in skilled nursing facility if you are released from the hospital to go to a rehab facility. A Medicaid plan, also known as a supplement, will extend that to 100 days. Remember, Medicare pays for acute care, not custodial care. And custodial care is a lifetime cost that Paul mentioned a moment ago. There are truly only three ways for long-term care to be paid. First one is self-funding. It's out of your own pocket or out of a family member's pocket. The second one is long-term care or chronic care insurance policies. And the third one is Medicaid.
Now, we're not here to scare you. This isn't a scenario that if you don't plan, you're going to wind up on the streets. That's simply not the case. If you need care, you will receive it. However, without proper planning, you cannot choose where and who provides it. This is what we wanted to talk to you about today. How do you properly plan ahead for long-term care so that when and if the time comes, you can still remain in control over your life?
A popular phrase is, death brings families together. But a less popular but just as true statement is, long-term care tears families apart. Think about this scenario. You have no plan in place and a care need arises. This isn't just because you're 85 and your mind is beginning to slip. This is because of a stroke or many other scenarios that could cause a care situation earlier in life. How would your children react to a care scenario that required them to step up and provide help for you? Do all your children live locally? What happens if one feels as though they are shouldering a larger burden than their siblings? How many people do you know that have gone through a long-term care scenario with their parents? How many would call it a well-planned and easy situation?
That's something else, Ron. The question that I hear most is, where do I begin? The first step is to think about who your team will be. Who is your who? This isn't as easy as you might think. The first place to start is with your immediate family, your children, your spouse. Who will be there for you in a scenario where you don't have a plan in place, and who will step up and help? If you don't have children, it's important to start researching what's available from your community. Many communities have what is called an agency on aging that can provide significant resources for you ahead of time to start that plan.
Remember, you are not alone in this. It is important to have a conversation around what your expectations are for your team, as well as discussing with them the challenges they may face. Do members of your team have a large family that they are already taking care of? Do your children, do they live locally? Are they spread all around the country? How would providing a few hours of care each day affect their personal work lives? You may have thoughts on who can do what, but really consider how your day would change if suddenly you needed to spend a few hours per day being a caregiver for your parents. We all love our parents and what is best for them, but it's not selfish to consider how it will affect your life. What is selfish is assuming everybody will drop whatever they are doing in their lives and take care of your needs at a moment's notice without a plan. This step is extremely important and must be done very candidly so that as the time comes, there are as few surprises as possible.
Once you've established your who, now it's time to start considering the where. This is what I call the hopes, dreams, wishes page. We all hope we will never need long-term care. We all wish that we can stay in our homes. What I really dream about is that I'm not a burden on my children, that I can receive care where I want it, and most importantly, that I can leave a strong legacy for my family. That's why it's important to plan the where details. What would your team say if you asked where they thought you'd like to receive care?
Yeah, would it be your home?
Yeah.
That's everybody's dream location. None of us want to think about being forced to leave. If you plan ahead of time, it will give you the best chance of being able to remain in your home. One of the big challenges of living in your home is the lack of built-in medical resources. I don't mean machines and surgeons, but having a nurse, home health care aide, or someone who is able to help you on a day-to-day basis. Remember, Medicare will pay for most of your medical needs, but not the custodial needs. Those needs include help preparing meals, bathing, assistance eating with mobility, or any activity of your daily living for which you someday may need help with. In order to successfully stay at home, having someone around to help you is extremely important. And as discussed earlier, needs to be planned ahead of time to make sure it's a viable option.
Yeah, it most certainly is. Another option is assisted living. Many of these are simply condos, pretty nice, that provides extra level of care. They often provide people with care with on-call 24 hours a day assistance. They don't provide the highest level of care that a nursing home would, but they can be a great place to maintain your independence while still receiving the care required. If you feel as though you don't have a strong team in place, these can be a fantastic option to help you maintain your independence while still having the assistance needed. Some of the advantages are that you can continue to remain independent. They can offer and have varying levels of care so that the costs can be matched with your needs. Some of the disadvantages are the lack of supply, fortunately. Assisted living homes are nearly always near capacity, with over 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. This number isn't going down. It's important to plan ahead. Plan in regards to that facility in your area. If you don't research options and have a couple of choices ahead of time, you may find there's not any availability in your area. I highly recommend researching facilities ahead of time, focusing specifically on locations as well as the services that they provide.
Another option is a nursing home. This is what most people are trying to avoid. With proper planning, you can keep this as a last resort option. There is no way around acknowledging that there may become a time when you need 24-hour care. Skilled nursing homes provide the highest level of care. They are often similar to assisted living facilities in that they have levels of care to make sure the cost matches your needs. One of the advantages in using a nursing home is that they provide the highest level of care. Some of the disadvantages are that they offer very little independence and are statistically the least desirable place to receive care. The other disadvantage is nursing homes are in extremely high demand. It is so important to plan ahead and research available options in your area. It can be as simple as Googling what is available. But if there is no plan in place ahead of time, there might not be availability in your area. Let's think about this. If you are relying on others, how comfortable would it be for you to be in a nursing home 100 miles away from your family, your friends, and your community that you have spent years building?
Man, I'll tell you, that's something else. Now we have to figure out a way to pay for it. All of the numbers on this sheet are costs for care. What would your retirement look like if suddenly, for the next 5 or 6 years, you added this additional income need to your plan? It creates a huge income gap, and proper planning will help give your team an idea of where the funding should come from. Let's talk about some funding options, okay?
All right. The first option is one that many people may be familiar with, Medicaid. The advantage to this is that you already paid for it. The disadvantages to this is that it typically requires a significant spend down of your assets before you become eligible. It varies by state, but oftentimes they require your assets to be spent down to only a few $1,000s. The other major concern with Medicaid is availability. Nursing homes are privately run businesses who have a choice of which clients that they receive. As a private business in high demand, most will reserve a certain number of beds for Medicare or Medicaid patients, but often will have more beds for private payers.
The next option is through self-funding. The advantages to this is you don't have to buy any insurance. You don't have to go through any underwriting. But the disadvantages are uncertainty of how that much care you're going to need and what the future costs are going to be. Think about this. Which assets should you use first? For instance, if you're planning on using your retirement accounts, you will need to consider the taxes that you're going to need to take out for that withdrawal. For example, if you need $100,000 a year, you're going to have to take out probably somewhere in the neighborhood of about 140 in order to net $100,000 in taxes. With self-funding and Medicaid, the question is, would you rather have your money go to the government or the nursing home? Typically, the answer is neither, which is why there are several ways that you can offload much of the costs and the risks to an insurance company.
Yeah, one of the ways to offload the cost is through traditional long-term care insurance. These policies are set up like care insurance. You make a premium payment either monthly or annually. Those payments can increase every year. If you use this care, it will provide significant benefits for the cost. Unfortunately, if you don't use it, you don't get any of your money back. With traditional long-term care, you can fund the long-term care costs for pennies on the dollar, but you do have to qualify medically. In recent years, this has become more and more difficult. You don't have to be a marathon runner, but you do need to be in reasonably good health. We don't want to spend a lot of time on the underwriting. So if you have specific concerns, we would be happy to talk with you after this meeting.
Another way to fund long-term care is through asset-based long-term care. These are policies that have been around for about 30 years or so. Asset-based long-term care combines self-funding with traditional long-term care in order to address many of the issues with both of these strategies. The government has provided significant tax advantages specifically to life insurance and annuity policies designed for this type of long-term care purpose. These types of policies have similar restrictions as traditional long-term care. They still have the underwriting, but they have more flexibility than traditional underwriting. They can use annuity or life insurance based on medical concerns so that the potential for coverage actually becomes higher with asset-based long-term care versus traditional. So here's a quick example of what an asset long-term care policy may look like. We can transfer a lump sum. Here's a quick example of what an asset-based long-term care policy may look like. We can transfer $100,000 or make monthly or annual payments from an asset bucket that it's currently sitting in, transfer it over to a long-term care policy. These policies will first provide a cash value, so you haven't spent your assets or lost them. It's still your assets. We just repurposed them.
This will also provide a death benefit if you don't use the care. Oftentimes, this will return at least, if not more than your initial premium to your heirs. Most importantly, the largest bucket of these policies that is created is the long-term care bucket. This type of product can often provide 4 to 5 times or more leverage on your dollars for long-term care purposes. This is another plus to the asset-based policy. Unlike traditional long-term care insurance, asset-based policies are not use it or lose it. If you never need long-term care, then the leveraged dollars will be paid to your beneficiary a tax-free death benefit. Asset-based plans come in several shapes and sizes. That's what we are here for, to help you find the best solution for you.
As we begin to wrap up, I want you to think about this question. What is the legacy you want to leave? The answer to this is much more than just your finances. It's about how you want people to remember you, about how you can age gracefully without being a burden to anyone. And that comes down to my biggest hope of what you're going to take away from this presentation. Take control and plan today. Always remember, if you need care, you're going to get it. If you take control of your plan, you're going to be able to dictate who and where that care is provided. As part of our initial consultation, we believe long-term care planning is so important that we have everybody fill out a long-term care workbook. The workbook follows many of the preparation tips that we mentioned here today. Our clients keep these as a living document that they update as time goes on. When a care need arises, we're able to work with their children based upon this document to make sure everybody is on the same page and working toward that same goal. We can't promise that this will make long-term care scenario perfectly smooth, but we can promise that having something like this in place, whether it's through us or not, will help make that job for everybody who cares for you significantly easier.
That's right.
We would be honored to help you with your own unique situation. Please let us know how we can sit down and personalize this workbook for your situation. We want to thank you again for watching. Please drop us a line in the comments section below. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel and like us on social media so that you don't miss any important or timely information. Thank you so much for attending. I'm Paul Hutton.
I'm Ron Hahn.
We appreciate you guys coming out and visiting with us today.
Thank you.